Eva Peron was known to millions as Evita, and she was one of the most remarkable yet controversial women of the 20th century. She was born in 1919 to humble beginnings, and she rose to become the First Lady of Argentina, and she became the voice of the poor and the working classes. However, at just the age of 33, her life was cut tragically short. Eva Peron died on the 26th of July 1952, and her death shocked Argentina, and she left a lasting mark on her country. But she had suffered a great deal in her final months, and her death was painful and a tragic one. After her death, her remains were embalmed and were even at one point smuggled out of Argentina and taken from her burial site. And today we look at the death of Eva Peron. And to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Eva Peron had always been driven by energy and ambition. As First Lady, she worked tirelessly to support workers, women and the poor. She founded the Eva Peron Foundation, which built schools, hospitals and orphanages. She also championed women's suffrage in Argentina, which was achieved in 1947. But behind her public strength, her health was beginning to fail, and by 1949, Eva was suffering from severe gynecological pain. Doctors initially thought it might be related to anemia or general exhaustion. After all, her workload was immense. But in 1946 or 1950, it became clear something far more serious was wrong. She had developed cervical cancer, a disease that was very difficult to treat at the time. Modern treatments like chemotherapy were not yet available, and surgery carried enormous risks. Despite her illness, Eva insisted on continuing her public duties. She travelled across the country, she gave speeches and attended political rallies. Her frailty, however, was becoming obvious. Supporters often noticed how thin and pale she had grown. She sometimes collapsed after public events and required assistance to stand. By 1951, Eva's condition had worsened. She underwent a hysterectomy in an attempt to stop the cancer's spread, but it was already too advanced. Secretly, American surgeon George Pack, a specialist in cancer treatment, was flown to Argentina to perform the operation. But the truth could not be hidden for long. Evita was dying. Her husband, Juan Peron, was preparing for re-election as president. Eva wanted to run alongside him as vice president, a move that thrilled the working class but angered the military and conservative elites. In August of 1951, a massive rally was held in Buenos Aires, with over 2 million people urging her to accept the nomination. But her illness had taken too much from her. In tears she declined, knowing she did not have the strength to survive the political struggle. From late 1951 to 52, Eva Peron's health rapidly declined. She weighed less than 80 pounds at the time, and photographs from the era show a woman who looked much older than 33. She had to be carried to public appearances, and her body was supported by a hidden plaster frame beneath her clothes when she stood beside her husband, but still she refused to stop working. In the June and July of 1952, Eva's life neared its end. She was mostly confined to bed in the presidential residence, surrounded by doctors, nurses and family. Her pain was excruciating, and she was given heavy doses of morphine. Witnesses said her bedroom was kept dim and quiet, with flowers and religious icons near her bed. She drew great comfort from her Catholic faith, and Eva was deeply aware of her approaching death. She arranged her personal affairs and spent her last energy ensuring that her foundation could continue to help Argentina's poor. She also asked that her remains be preserved, a wish that would set off one of the strangest post-mortem stories in history. On the 26th of July, 1952, at 8:25 in the evening, Eva Peron died in Buenos Aires. She was just 33 years old. The official announcement to the nation was simple and solemn. It is with profound regret that we inform the people of the Republic that Eva Peron, spiritual leader of the nation, died at 20:25 hours. The response to her death was overwhelming. Church bells tolled, shops closed, and people poured into the streets. Radio stations interrupted their broadcasts with funeral music. Crowds of mourners gathered outside the presidential palace, weeping openly. For many Argentines, especially the poor, Evita was not just a first lady, she was a saviour figure who had given them dignity and hope. Her body was placed on display, and hundreds of thousands of people came to pay their respects. Some accounts suggest over 3 million mourners lined up, waiting for hours to see her coffin. Newspapers at the time described scenes of hysteria, people fainting, crying uncontrollably, and even injuring themselves in the crush of the crowd. Eva had expressed her wish to be embalmed so that her body could remain a symbol of the people. Juan Peron arranged for the Spanish embalmer, Dr. Pedro Ara, to undertake the task. Ara, a perfectionist, spent months working on her body, using a special technique that preserved it in a lifelike state. Her skin, her hair, and even her eyelashes were maintained, so that she appeared as if she were merely sleeping. For a time, her embalmed body was displayed at the headquarters of the Eva Peron Foundation, where visitors could see her as if she were still alive. The plan was to eventually place her into a grand monument, the monument to the Desamidos, the shirtless ones, as her supporters were called. That dream was never completed. Eva's death marked a turning point for her husband's presidency. Without her charisma and connection to the masses, Juan Peron's political power began to fade, and in 1955, a military coup overthrew him. The new rulers feared the enduring influence of Eva's embalmed body. They believed her corpse could inspire uprisings and keep her memory alive among the poor, and as a result the body was hidden, moved secretly from place to place, and even taken out of the country. For nearly 16 years, the location of Eva Peron's remains was unknown to the public, and at one point her body was buried in Milan, Italy, under a false name. It was only in 1971 that her remains were returned to Juan Peron, then living in exile in Spain. Eventually, after Juan Peron's return to power and subsequent death, Eva's body was brought back to Argentina in 1974. She was finally laid to rest in the Durat family tomb in La Reclota Cemetery, Buenos Aires, where it remains today, under heavy security to prevent desecration. Eva Peron's final months and her death became the subject of countless legends. Some say she was given secret experimental treatments, including radiation therapy, in a desperate attempt to cure her. Others believe she underwent a lobotomy in her last days, possibly to ease her pain or to control her emotions, though historians debate the truth of this claim. What is clear is that her suffering was immense. Friends and attendants reported that she prayed constantly, held a crucifix, and asked for God's mercy. She also clung to the idea that her life had meaning because she had dedicated it to Argentina's poor. Even in her last public speeches, when she could barely stand, she urged her people to remain loyal to Juan Peron and to the cause of social justice. Eva Peron's death created one of the most enduring myths in Latin American history. To the poor and working class, she became a saint-like figure, often referred to as a spiritual leader of the nation. To her critics, she remained a controversial symbol of Peronism, accused of manipulating the masses, but no one could deny her extraordinary impact. Her short life and tragic death at the age of 33 invited comparisons to religious martyrs. Many Argentines saw her as a Christ-like figure who suffered for the sake of others. Her embalmed body, her dramatic funeral, and the mystery of her missing remains for years only added to her legend. The death of Eva Peron was not just the passing of a First Lady, it was the end of an era in Argentina. Stricken by cancer at a young age, she faced her final moments with courage, determination, and faith. Her death plunged a nation into mourning and set off a bizarre, posthumous journey for her body that lasted decades. In her last months, Eva suffered greatly, but she never abandoned her mission to serve Argentina's poor. That is why her death left such a deep scar on her people, and why she is remembered, not simply as a politician's wife, but as a legend. Eva Peron lived fast, worked tirelessly, and died young, ensuring that her memory would never fade. Her final words to her people still echo, "I leave you all my heart." Thank you for watching, and to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. And once again, thank you so much for watching.